I'll have you know I have the reflexes of a cat and the speed of a mongoose. Throw it. I dare ya. Oh, no! Don't just stand there! Throw me a spear! It's in the bone. It's in the bone. It's in the
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Empire League podcast. It is week 5. I'm your commissioner, Andy Cahill. That's your commissioner. Oh my goodness.
Nope.
That is your commissioner.
We're keeping it in.
That is your commissioner, Scott Sprague. Scott, say hello.
That must be so embarrassing for you. I'm so happy that is the best this could have possibly started.
All right. Well, we'll start with some news and notes after my continued embarrassment. And congratulations, everybody. Everyone paid on time for the first time in the league's history. Give yourselves a round of applause. I thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys getting that done. I really didn't want to have to chase anybody. I didn't want to have to lock a team. I know Scott felt the same way.
It's just such a pain in the ass for the easiest thing, and I know it's one of those things that's like, it's going to take 2 seconds, so I'll just do it later. Thank you for just doing it. It's such a pain
really
in the ass.
Appreciate it.
We can
really
have
appreciate
fun
it.
now.
Speaking of fun, Benny Denny does owe us a contrition video. Not from this past week. We'll get to it. Congratulations, Benny Denny.
Absolutely.
But
smoked Moto Panicoco.
but from week 2 when he missed out. So he will be submitting that this week, according to my co-commissioner.
Yeah,
and
he said he would be doing it weather pending, and I'm not sure what that means. I don't know if he's going down into North Carolina and try to film in the hurricane, but looking forward to it if it does come.
Very, very much looking forward to it. Briggsy, who came in last this week, is next up to offer contrition. We are expecting to either get a video from him or a confirmation that he will be paying for his contrition. So we'll update you guys when we have that information. Moving on, as I said in the chat this week, we are going to be taking nominations for the Smart, Dumb, and Nolan moves of the week moving forward. So if you have one, whether it's you or it's someone you're playing against or something that you notice, please feel free to nominate. Try and keeping the nominations to either a free agent pickup the week before or a start sit from the week that we're covering in the pod. But feel free to,
or possibly a trade that happens.
Yes, or a trade. So feel free to nominate any Smart, Dumb, or Nolan moves of the week. You can either do that by texting Scott or I, or if you feel like you want to put it out publicly, you can put it in the chat. So just wanted to say that because we don't see every single start-sit decision, or we might not pay attention to every start-sit decision. So if there's one that's especially egregious or especially smart, please call it out.
Yeah, I will say that the only person who has nominated himself or somebody else so far is Bob, and for the life of me, I couldn't remember what it was, and I couldn't be fucked to look in the group chat, so we did just skip right over it. Just now realizing that. Sorry, Bob. I'll try to look it up as we move through here.
Bob nominated himself for starting Carson Steele over Ladd McConkey.
That he did. What an idiot. What an absolute idiot. First of all, you picked up the wrong guy.
We will get to the smart and dumb moves of the week. That's not the dumb move of the week, but it is up there. So thank you, Bob, for nominating yourself, and make sure to keep it up. The next piece of news is we have a sighting in the NFL of DeAndre Swift. How did that make you feel, Scott?
Oh, it tickled my pickle. I'll be honest, I wrote this just very stream of conscious, this show doc that we're working off. Forgot I put that in there. Stoked though. I told you last week he just has to pass, and you said, "Well, he's not a very good pass catcher anymore." And that's a recording from last week. That's what Andy sounds like. And it turns out he is. They passed him the ball 7 times. He caught the ball 7 times, and he ran for 70 yards off those catches, and then had another 80 on the ground or something like that. Keep doing that. Screen passes, they're your friend. That's the only way that he's going to have any success. Please don't take it away from him.
All I have to say is I hope Roschon Johnson gets more carries. Another rumor that's circling around the NFL right now is the Davante Adams trade rumors. I know that he has expressed an interest, of course, in playing with his 2 previous quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers in New York and Derek Carr, a.k.a. just a guy, in New Orleans. We have no inside NFL knowledge, so I have no idea if this is going to happen. But from a fantasy perspective, what do you think is the better spot for him?
Anywhere that's not Las Vegas. It's interesting because he's probably not going to play. I mean, he might not play for. He's not going to play another snap in a Raiders jersey. Can we agree to that?
I don't know exactly how long
they've already ruled him out. Well, he's out with a hamstring injury, but it's like a wink injury because he just requested a trade, and they're not going to run him out there, a guy who doesn't care and wants to be traded, and if he gets hurt worse, he won't be able to be traded. I don't think he plays again, and so that,
I don't think he plays.
It could be a couple.
I don't think he plays again until the trade deadline. If he doesn't get traded, I think magically his hamstring is going to feel better.
Oh, it 100% will. Maybe he'll get traded to Cleveland and he'll get hooked up with one of Deshaun's masseuses. Whatever. We'll shake that out. There's a couple teams that are able to get him, have the cap space to actually acquire him because he has a huge contract. Yeah. One of them is the Buffalo Bills, which. B-Guider, if you're looking for a reason to make me stop sending you trade offers for Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's Davante Adams getting traded to the Bills. I will be coming for you for that, and I will release him from you. Another one is the Steelers. They were in on Brandon Ayuk, and they had the money to do it. And so, I mean, that's their offense with Adams on it would be as much as I hate. No,
it'd be the same.
It really wouldn't be.
Arthur Smith doesn't want to throw the ball.
Justin Field had 300 yards last week.
Yeah, because they were losing.
Well,
when they're winning
a lot.
when they're winning, they just pound the rock
they're going
crazy.
But that's how they're going to get ahead. But they had the money, and they put the money on the table and tried to buy Brandon Ayuk. They tried to go acquire an alpha receiver because they felt like they needed it, and now one could be about to fall into their lap. And they're one of the few teams in the NFL that actually has the cap space to go get him. And then the Jets would be the third, and that would probably be the best destination for him.
Yeah, I think from a fantasy perspective, the Jets is you obviously get excited about Rodgers, Adams coming back together. That was one of the best fantasy duos ever. It might even make Aaron Rodgers playable in fantasy. But it's he would be competing with Breece Hall. He'd be competing with Garrett Wilson.
I don't think he would be. I think Aaron Rodgers.
You think he just
shown...
usurps? You think that Devontae just usurps Garrett Wilson
Yes.
like that?
Yes.
Just because Rodgers is going to be like, I'm going to throw to my guy.
Yeah, and I know where he's going to be, and I know when he's going to be there. I mean, he looks frustrated and pissed off playing with Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson. He is an incredible receiver, but he is not that alpha one that there. I mean, there's only 5 of them in the league. You know, I'm talking like CD, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek, caliber.
Malik Neighbors.
Maybe one day. But
Seems, yeah.
But if you watch the Jets games, like, he throws passes. Aaron Rodgers is throwing balls 2 places in the field where he thinks Garrett Wilson should be, and there is no Garrett Wilson there. Same with the other, and that's why Allen Lazard is getting targets, is because they at least know each other, and he has shown his entire career that he has his comfy people, and those are the only people he wants to throw the balls to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the place your mind says logically he has the best chances, but getting him in that Buffalo
Send him
would
to
be
Buffalo. That'd be tasty.
That would be unbelievable.
And I don't want him to go to Pittsburgh because I feel like it would be really good there, and I don't want Pittsburgh to be good.
I don't think anything like. I know George Pickens is not Devontae Adams, but like, they can barely get him the ball.
Yeah, but think about if I don't know that Pickens is good enough to beat the best DB on every team, but he is good enough to beat the second best DB on every team. You know what I mean?
Well, now you got me.
And Garrett Wilson's in the same boat where he might actually do better if he's the second
just
read,
feasting on the number 2.
Because you won't have Patrick Surtain draped all over him, and Adams knows how to work those DBs.
So the other trade possibility that we have listed here is Amari Cooper. This is not something I'm looped in on, so by all means, Scott, take the lead.
It's really just that he is. We restructured his contract, so he is getting all of his money now and is a free agent at the end of the year. This only came up with regards to one team, which was Kansas City, because they don't have, and most teams don't have, the cap space or assets to go get Devontae Adams, but Kansas City could absolutely afford Amari Cooper, and that would be someone that keeps their season alive. And keeps them running. So as soon as that Rashid Rice injury happened, everyone was coming out about Amari Cooper, which would be absolutely... As soon as
Patrick Mahomes tore his own number 1 wide receiver's ACL.
Yes, that's exactly right. And even like when we brought in Jerry Jeudy, we re-signed him and extended him, and we gave Amari Cooper more money, but just for this year, to see if he was worth that wide receiver 1 money. So even if Kansas City doesn't want a long-term financial situation because they have Rashid Rice will come back and then be suspended for 6 games and then come back again, they can still win now with Cooper if that happened, but they wouldn't be tied down the same way a team that goes out and tries to get Devontae Adams would.
Well, that would be good news for Big D and the Crammers for sure. Because
he'd have to drop Amari Cooper.
Yeah, it would have to be a trade
by rule, unless we traded Cooper to the Houston Texans. It's over with.
Yeah, an Amari Cooper Tank Dell swap, and now all of a sudden Big D is good to go.
He's just sitting pretty right back where he status quo.
All right, let's move over to the waiver wire. Not a super active waiver wire as the team sort of settled in. The big addition was one that I made. That was Trey Sermon. I got him for $12. This was actually a Tuesday or Wednesday morning fab change. I originally had it in the single digits. I was going to go to 11, and then I popped it up to 12 because I thought someone's going to go to 11 to beat out the person who does 10.
Yeah.
So
way to snipe B. Guider, who's not only a huge Colts fan, but also I think he has Jonathan Taylor too.
Yeah, he does. And I have Taylor in another league, so I've been keeping an eye on this injury. Anytime you hear high ankle sprain with someone whose, entire job depends on cutting quickly.
Well, and has had that injury before.
Yeah, you start to get nervous. So whether it's they try and run him out there this week, or Sermon gets 1 or 2 full weeks of run, it's still a good sort of Jordan Mason situation where it's like, okay, when this guy's going to get all of the work, or the vast majority of the work, when the number 1 is out, and he turns into a pumpkin when the number 1 comes back. But it's still good to have, because these guys get hurt, running backs get hurt. So pretty happy with that addition. I also added yet another tight end. Actually re-added a tight end, I should say, because this was someone I traded away in the off season, and that is Tucker Kraft. So we've made fun of Tucker Kraft.
This is where, if I was doing the video still, I would do the Office snip snap snip snap.
Snip snap, snip snap, snip snap.
So well, Scott has made fun of Tucker Kraft on multiple occasions this year. I have had my eye on him ever since week 1, because I thought he was going to be the number 2 tight end behind Musgraves, which is why I felt okay trading him to Griffin. And he's come out, and not only has he been the number 1 tight end, he has been a consistent target in this offense. So I don't know.
First of all, I was making fun of
tight end brigade for a reason.
Whoever it was, Griffin, I believe, that had both of them.
Yes.
Yes. And I thought it was ludicrous that you would have not 1 but 2. First of all, y'all be out there with too many tight ends anyway. Secondly, you don't need 2 from the same team. That is like...
Agreed.
Yeah, but that's... I wasn't... I mean, you got the better of the 2, and the more usable of the 2. I'm just saying that it wasn't a dig on Kraft single. It was a dig on Griffin, who had Kraft and Musgrave at the same time.
And then again, this was like our first dumb move of the week. Dropped Tucker Kraft to keep Luke Musgraves. It didn't make any sense then. It doesn't make any sense now.
No.
Moving on, B. Guider did end up getting a running back, and that was Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson's worst nightmare. I don't know how to explain how Tyler Algier continues to be fantasy relevant in an offense that went out and spent a top 10 pick on Bijan Robinson, but he is, and he does. And, $5 for someone who can probably be a flex in some lighter bye weeks, not bad. So good on you, B. Guider.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised to find that Tyler Algier is on the waiver wire. I know Corey dropped him a week or 2 ago, and that's somebody that Corey has been talking about for years as someone that would do exactly that, like just be a nice bye week fill in, or flex play when you absolutely need one, that he'll go and get you your 7 to 8 points at the worst, and if he trips and falls in the end zone, then you get the occasional 15 plus point week. So I was surprised that he dropped him, someone who needed the team diversity, and I guess he's going to be on B. Guider's team now, so turban it up.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So we also had a trade this week. I think this is one of the first trades of the season. So Benny Denny received Isaiah Likely, Troy Franklin? I don't know.
Franklin.
2 25 thirds and 2 25 thirds. And he traded with Scott for Austin Eckler and $25 of fab, which is just criminal. Benny Denny,
first of all,
what
can
you
we put
thinking?
to rest the collusion chance that we're going on out there?
No collusion. No collusion.
That is a bridge too far. Honestly, I think I probably could have gotten away with it if I had just sent the one of the 25 thirds. Maybe just giving Johnny back his. I sent yours and his.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two thirds that I got from my preseason trade that I made. And if you go back and listen to the tape on that preseason pod, I said I got more assets, and y'all know I like to trade picks around. And here we are, and we're trading them around.
Definitely no collusion. Let's just stop that. Under in no way would collusion occur, and Austin Eckler be involved in that same trade. Like, that's not how collusion works. If this was like
Unless it was
Justin Jefferson for
something.
25 fab, like, okay, fine.
Yeah, well, it started. I mean, y'all know I've been trying to sling trades all season long. I mean, I've been shotgun blasting offers all over town.
The number of Isaiah Likely trades that I've had to decline is true. Like, I know I'm the tight end brigade, but, like, Jesus Christ, man.
I didn't want Isaiah Likely on my team anymore. I picked him up for free at the end of last season, and I was like, I know I can get something out of him. And I know that because I've picked him up off the waiver wire and traded him before. It happened last season. I traded him to Briggsy for a second-round pick. Tried to do it again this season, but he wised up. Because he is the Mark Andrews manager, and he didn't want to double down in despair. So yeah, I mean, I've been trying to find any sort of package deal that gets me closer to what my goal is, and then Tuesday night I'm sitting there and I get a trade offer from Eric, and I understand you got a similar one, where he was trying to get one of my star players for a very serviceable rental player, not rental, but a player that doesn't have quite as long of a lifespan left of relevance, and then every pick under the sun. And I respected the move, Eric. If I don't win this year, we might revisit that trade or a version of it. But it was giving up on the title run this year in exchange for future comfort. And I'm in a position where I have to go all in this year. I have to. And so I looked at my roster and I'm like, Troy Franklin, I think he's great. He's one of the fastest, if not the fastest people in the draft class this year. He has played in college with Bo Nix, so I did try to trade him to the Bo Nix manager. Didn't go well. But I think he's a great prospect, but he's not going to help me on my current roster get to where I'm trying to go. And Isaiah Likely, same story. You're hoping that Mark Andrews gets hurt. Short of that, you don't know when to play him, when not to play him. If Andrews goes down, or when Andrews moves on, because Andrews is getting older too, and Likely is only 24. There's a lot of future to be excited about. And then 2 third-round picks for next year. I texted Johnny and I said, future for the present. And I got Austin Eckler, who doesn't have that many years left on the wagon, but is in a very exciting Washington offense. He's the 1B of the running backs with Brian Robinson, maybe even the 1C if you want to consider Jaden Daniels a running back. But it's an offense that I wanted a piece of, and I feel like when Eckler's out there, I can just write in with a Sharpie 10 points. And I might get more, but I'm not getting less. And that is incredibly valuable for me, and 25 fab, most of which I spent in the waiver wire picking up Dontavian Wicks from Green Bay.
Which we'll get to Dontavian in a second. I do want to just say, Benny Denny, I get this move on your part, right? Like, Likely is probably going to be the starter next year, and he might take the sales pitch that Scott gave me time and time again was that Isaiah Likely is probably going to be the starter by the end of this year. and I don't think that that's definitely going to happen, but it's possible. So I can understand that.
The sales pitch I gave you was the truth, which was that he has more targets than Mark Andrews in every game. He has more more fantasy points in 3 out of 4 games so far this year. You know, I don't know what else to say other than he's doing better than Mark Andrews.
Yes, and my response was other than week 1, he's scored like 5 points or fewer. So it's
and that's better really than Mark Andrews.
So I think
hard
that
out
like
there for tight ends.
Benny Denny, I feel like, this is a move that's forward facing. We've talked about your team the last few weeks as you've come in last time and time again, and talked about how like you really need to move some of these older guys, get younger guys in there. That's the kind of move this is. The only issue I have with this, which is purely just as like another person in this league, is why would you give him 25 fab? like it's such an advantage to be able to have 125 fab over the course of the year, and it means that like when you really want a guy, you're going to have the money, and like the last thing I want is for you to be able to go out and get good young players, which you then did with Dontavian Wicks, who I dropped last week thinking it was an upgrade to get Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs continues to be shitty, even with Jordan Love back. Dontavian Wicks, on the other hand, catches multiple touchdowns and has a huge game.
To be fair, I did try to trade you Isaiah Likely for Romeo Doubs last week. During the
That's
pod.
True. That is true.
So I don't.
That is
so
true.
If there's any rumblings of collusion out there, know that I've tried this exact trade setup with multiple people. This is just the one that stuck.
Yes, definitely no collusion. Dontavian Wicks, I looked at that and I was just like, the thing I took away from Dontavian Wicks being good last week is like, obviously he's more athletic than Romeo Doubs, and I think that's like playing a huge part of this. But I think that ultimately what I'm taking away from the Green Bay offense is that the guy I want is Jaden Reed. And other than that, it's a crapshoot whether a guy is going to go off or a guy is going to be mid.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Jaden Reed is the one on that team, no question about it. I think while Christian Watson is out, Wicks jumps right into the 2 role, and Jordan Love throws. I mean, he just slings the ball all game, and he's playing the Rams this week. He's got a couple good matchups coming up. Christian Watson, who's been injured his entire career, has another high ankle sprain, just like you were talking about with Jonathan Taylor, that these things linger, especially worrisome if they have a history of them before, which Watson does. And Watson should be out for the next 3 weeks to a month. Do you want to know who comes back on my roster in 3 weeks to a month?
Puka
Nacua. So Wicks is not the placeholder, because I'm not going to drop him to bring back Puka, but he is in a starting role, even if it's a flex, while Puka is out, and my team needed that in the same way that it needed Austin Eckler.
Yes.
And Eckler's is probably more long term, but I feel like you can kind of plot out where the safe spike weeks are for Wicks. And the most important thing, and I know I talked to you about this, but he plays
in week 6.
He plays in week 6. And if I was doing the video again, it'd be the scene from Moneyball, because he gets on base.
Why do you like him?
Because he gets on base.
Does Eckler play week 6?
Of course he does. Yeah. No.
I'm
thinking ahead when I make these moves.
What about Ty Johnson, who you got for $0?
I had an empty space on my roster. This is a backup running back for Buffalo. If you're not familiar with Ty Johnson's game, I had an extra space on my roster because of the trade, and so I figured if I got Dontavian Wicks, I don't need DeMarcus Robinson anymore. And if that happened, then my waivers were set up, so I would get Ty Johnson, who was free. I can't imagine a world that I'm playing him. This is more like I have a free space in my bench until Puka comes back, and so I'm kind of just holding him. And if he's one of the few people out there that if there's an injury ahead of him, he goes into a very, very good, safe, secure role on a great offense. That's all it is.
Yeah,
but he's not really worth much with James Cook
I know it's a recurring joke at this point in the podcast, but Ty Johnson is kind of in a similar position where Jordan Mason was preseason, where it's like he's behind a guy who's like obviously the number one guy.
Yeah.
But the offense is so good that you want the number two guy just in case. And so it's a similar situation.
Yeah, especially with an air quote free space on my roster, and not for nothing, but like the decision, I was looking at a couple of people, and Ty Johnson has 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, 1 receiving, 1 on the ground. So I'm not gonna if James Cook goes down and Ty Johnson becomes the next Jordan Mason, you will not see this on the Smart Moves of the Week. I'm not calling that. I'm not that good. But I had a free space, and he just felt like the most logical fit.
Great. Well, let's talk about Week 4. We've talked about all the additions, talked about some news and notes, but let's talk about Week 4. The headline of the week is definitely Benny Denny, Mr. Basement, Mr. Contrition Video this year, does in fact get his first win of the year, beating Nolan and Moto Panikeku, which did immediately throw Nolan into a tailspin.
25% funnier.
So, like we talked about last week, so this is kudos to us. We're just humble podcasters, but we did talk about how like this didn't seem like it was likely. Okay.
No, I don't think Nolan would have said it was very likely either.
No, but everything that we kind of talked about happened. Chuba Hubbard had a big day. You wouldn't expect it, but he did. Mike Evans finally bounces back. Kelsey bounces back in a big way after the Rashee Rice injury.
Yeah, that's
even
huge.
Even Dalton Kincaid gave him 10 points from the flex. So like it was the only thing that didn't happen was Jalen Hurts being great. Like Jalen Hurts was just he got 16 points. He was like serviceable.
Did enough, yeah.
Right. So it's like and we'll talk about the last move on his roster a little bit later. But Benny Denny, congratulations, getting your first win. And Nolan, I don't know how many weeks you can do this, man. Like, number 3 top scorer in the league this week, and another loss. So, in case anybody is curious, Nolan has the second most points in the league this year, and he is currently 1-3. So, get your trade offers in now.
I remember saying in the preseason pod, I think Nolan has certainly the best team I've ever seen him have, and I was in a couple leagues with him before this league started. The most talent on this roster, and I remember saying I can't wait to see how this goes wrong because I don't know how it will.
And it's like, again, Nolan, I know you think we're picking on you, buddy, and we kind of are, but like we're mostly just like dumbfounded that this keeps happening to you. Because it's just like every single time, like this has happened all 3 years. Okay, all 3 years you've come into the league with a pretty solid team, right?
Yeah, this is but this is the best.
This is the best. There's no question. And yet somehow you find a way to not start the right guys every time. It's like, it's like
if Vegas accepted reverse parlays, you would crush.
Scott and I were looking at this before we started recording, and we were like, I don't know if there's anything I would have done differently. Like we were talking about, should you start T. Higgins over Brian Thomas? You find a way to get Brian Thomas into your lineup. Like, can you possibly sit A-Chain so you open up another flex spot when you know that offense isn't very good? And it's just like you did everything that I think everyone else would have done, and you just got beat by this week a better team.
You needed something to get the spark. to get Benny Denny going, and sometimes all it takes is just lining up against the right person. It's brutal
That's all it
because you
is.
know what, and just to be fair, 127 is a respectable score. It was just nowhere near good enough this week.
Okay, moving on. Sprague's Dogs was able to hold off Griffin on Monday Night Football and take home yet another win, making him 3-1 and putting him into the upper echelon of the league. Currently sitting at third in the league.
Yep.
So Sprague's Dogs able to hold off and come through with a victory at the very end. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, that was a big Monday night game that they kept going back and forth. And actually, I think there was a time on Sunday where both of these teams, Eric and Griffin, were both expected to get, were very much in contrition watch out mode. And then everyone just went absolutely bananas late on Sunday, and in the Monday night game.
Yeah, no, definitely a good matchup, and unfortunately Griffin falls to 0-4, the only 0-4 team in the league, because of Benny Denny's victory. So,
Putting up numbers,
Bob, yeah, definitely Griffin's team is looking much more competitive than it has in the past. So that's what we like to see. Olave Lamp was able to take out Big D and the Crammers. And
this one was less close.
Yeah, this was not really
this did
competitive.
Not come down to Monday night.
Derrick Henry, absolutely, just he's the king for a reason.
Dude, that pussy couldn't even get 200 yards.
199, a touchdown, 3 catches, 10 yards and a touchdown. I think obviously you got the Carson Steele 0.4 or negative 0.4, whatever it was.
That's rough. Yeah, no, it was
negative 0.9. Sorry, negative 0.9.
Yeah,
it's 0.4 in another.
6 yards, which is great. 6 more yards
2
than
carries.
anyone else got.
2 carries.
And then a fumble, which will get you, along with the catch, which will
that'll
get you
to minus
negative
0.9
points.
And but the strength of this team is Lamar, Henry, and Robinson, and they definitely showed out. It's still concerning, Bob, that you have both of the receivers on the Saints and both of the receivers on the 49ers.
And both the running backs, and depending on how you look at them, in Baltimore with Lamar and Derrick Henry.
But it did work out for you this week, so
congratulations
this week to you. And
it didn't. The 49ers didn't. You got 6 points from Brandon Ayuk and 9 from Debo.
And Big D, not talk about you, Brock Purdy continues to be Brock Purdy and gets you 16 points, and then you just have all the Browns.
All the Browns. And some of the Browns even on your bench, which is even... there's more out there. David Njoku is about to be activated. Fuck. We're playing against... the Browns are playing against Washington, and they have just the worst possible pass defense, and I'm actually kind of low-key nervous about it.
We will get to the Week 5 preview momentarily.
I'm sweating.
So, in my matchup, I went up against B. Guider. That was pretty close at the end. B. Guider put up a pretty good fight Monday night, bringing it within 3 points, but was unable to, knock me off the top spot, even though I didn't have a good outing from Kyler. I didn't have the normal outing from Saquon, and my wide receivers continue to be mid outside of Jamar Chase, but it was enough to send me to 4-0 and keep me at number 1 in the league. But B. Guider's team, as I continue to say, is one that is very dangerous, and I think if Breece Hall was playing outside of a hurricane, he probably gets you this win. So definitely not
Devontae not playing for the next couple weeks, probably, depending on how and when he gets traded. uh, it's got to be concerning. I mean, you hope that he's on a new team and acclimated by the time our playoffs roll around, but there's nothing saying that the Raiders have to trade him this year if they find a deal that makes more sense to do in the offseason.
Yeah, and Terry McLaurin did show up, in this game, 7 catches, 52 yards, a touchdown,
Dude, Jaden Daniels
3 firsts. Jaden Daniels is good.
I am a believer.
But is Terry McLaurin going to do that every single week? We'll see. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor's got the high ankle sprain, so I don't know about the running back depth here. We're talking about Josh Jacobs, who hasn't scored a touchdown, even though Malik Willis was the quarterback for 3 weeks. You got Najee Harris, who's the definition of uninspiring. So, there are weak spots, and we've obviously talked at length about the quarterbacks. So, there are weak spots on this OB Guider team, but I think overall it's pretty solid. And then finally, Killing Unicorns bounces back from their loss last week and takes out Briggsy in pretty commanding fashion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't like anything that's happening in Miami. The Tyreek Hill situation continues to scare me, but I love the way my team is showing up while I'm going through this injury phase. I had a terrible week from Josh Allen. He only had 7 points. Terrible week from Tyreek Hill. He only had 7 points. Everybody else came to play. Cortland Sutton looking like a receiver. He had 9 targets. He had a touchdown. I think his connection with Bo Nix is exciting to me. I mean, I traded away Troy Franklin because that's an offense I don't want 2 receivers on. But I hope that I got the alpha, at least in the short term, before he finds his chemistry with his old college receiver in Troy Franklin. And I'm going to say it every week, Jackson Smith and Jigba is an efficiency monster. I mean, dude had 12 targets again, caught 8 of them. He catches everything that's around it. First, week 1, 2 for 2. Week 2, he had 16 targets, caught 12 of them. Then had 3 targets, caught 3 of them. Then 12 targets, caught 8 of them. We could be seeing the next Michael Thomas take form right before our eyes.
Wow, what a statement.
I stand by it. I'm Scott Sprague, and I approve this message.
Okay, there you go.
Come at me.
All right. Well, Briggsy, on the other hand, did not fare so well.
No, he did not.
So
we'll be hearing from him eventually.
We will be hearing from him.
Maybe next week's the week for Patty. Maybe then he'll be back.
Maybe so. Now, Briggsy does have Jaden Reed, who we just talked about being the number 1. I think Christian Kirk is shockingly still fantasy relevant. And obviously he dealt with the Rashee Rice injury and the Mark Andrews blank. So got to figure that out. But
2 points from Zeke. It's just, he has good players, but there's just a drop.
There's not enough. There's not enough good players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you
so
just
Briggsy,
consolidate,
best of luck.
Get yourself a starting lineup, and then be more active in the waiver wire. Maybe you can find some depth and get some of these fucking people the fuck off your team, man.
So speaking of securing depth, that brings us to our smart move of the week. Scott, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and toot my own horn. I'm gonna pat myself right on the back. My team is without depth these days. I'm down Christian McCaffrey. I'm down Puka. Was down Jordan Love earlier. He's back. And a couple of my prospects, I think there's only, of the 3 people I drafted, they've only played 2 games because there's been more injuries with them too. So I made a conscious effort in the last week, really, from last waiver wire to this one, to get the fluff off my team and bring in people who are going to help me win. So I removed Isaiah Likely, Troy Franklin, Demarcus Robinson. Get out of here. You weren't helping me for what I need my roster to do. Brought in Kareem Hunt, brought in Wicks, and I have Austin Eckler now too. I feel a lot safer about where the drop off and my floor is on my bench. The upside, I don't know if I've added too much to that, but I feel like I have a very reasonable safe floor in all three of those people, and all three of those people can pop off.
Absolutely. So I will actually be nominating a second smart move of the week, and I am not nominating myself. I did not do anything intelligent this week.
It feels real good.
I'm gonna nominate the man, the myth, the legend, Benny Denny.
Yeah.
Starting Chase Brown was truly a smart move. Last week on the pod, we talked about how desperate of a situation it was going to be in order for you to win, and I talked about taking Gabe Davis out of your lineup, maybe putting in DeAndre Hopkins. One of the smartest things you could have done, not listen to me, go with Chase Brown. Chase Brown prior to week 4 was no better than the running back 34, had not scored more than 8.9 points. He comes out, he's the RB5 last week. He scores 22.95 points, 15 rushing attempts, 2 tutties, and still gives you the receiving work. I mean, truly, maybe there's a little bit of luck in it, for sure, but
got to be good to get lucky.
Very smart move to put Chase Brown in. You saw the opportunity that was presenting itself to him, and you took it. So congratulations to Benny Denny.
Yeah, especially in a game that he was anti-favored to lose by 20. Shoot your shot. Find someone that you think has a chance at that upside, even if it could be all ceiling with a very dangerous floor. But it doesn't matter if you lose by 1 point or 20.
Yeah.
Find your guy. And if he didn't, he wouldn't have beat
Nolan.
Keiko.
Yeah, that move was the difference in that win. So congratulations, Benny Denny. You earned that victory 100%. Let's move over to the dumb move of the week. We were just talking about him. Briggsy is actively shopping Pat Mahomes. We know this. You have 2 really good fantasy quarterbacks on your bench, and you just didn't put one in. Jaden Daniels is the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football.
Yeah, and zero.
You just got to play him.
You just got to roll with it until it doesn't work anymore. Honestly, I would put him in my lineup and set it and forget it until week 14, which is the Commanders' bye week.
I totally agree. I think that playing Mahomes again and again, I understand it's Pat Mahomes. He's the quarterback you want on your real football team. He is not the quarterback you want on your fantasy team right now. And, hopefully we aren't here revisiting this again next week, and we get to see Jaden Daniels at the top of this lineup.
Well,
I don't know if it's gonna make a difference because you lost by 50, but at least at the quarterback position you will be competitive.
Yeah. Well, and with Rashee Rice out now, Pat Mahomes is going to be hyper targeting Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt, which is like 2/3 of his way back to the glory days of when he was super
Just
relevant.
need that Xavier Worthy pop off.
Yeah, sure, like a little baby cheetah. Maybe that gets you something, but at this point, it's been 4 weeks. It's been a whole month of very mediocre fantasy finishes when you have an option who's been better every single week in Jaden Daniels. I would ride Daniels the rest of the season, or at least until he gives you a reason not to.
So we do have one other dumb move of the week, and this is a dumb move of every week.
This has been the dumb move of about the last 2 months.
I think it's a dumb move of 3 years. Yeah, dumb move of 3 years. And looking at the roster...
This is more like a public service announcement.
Looking at the roster, there is no alternative on the roster. He's the only team without 2 tight ends, and that's Nolan. Congratulations, buddy.
Drop Kyle Pitts.
Why is Kyle Pitts in your starting lineup?
That's the line. Drop Kyle Pitts. Get him off. Get out of that business. If you put him on the waiver wire, nobody will pick him up. We're all scared of him. And if you need a tight end, Andy's got 5. B. Guider's got 7. Like, there are tight ends out there to be had. You just got to go, like, knock on somebody's door, man. You could have had Isaiah Likely for a very reasonable price.
Yeah. So okay. So we try to be fair here. So Pitts
Was that what we were supposed to do?
in the previous 3 weeks, Pitts was the tight end 3 with 10 points, which is saying all you need to know about the tight end position. And
Isaiah
tight end
Likely
9,
was tight end 1 that week.
and tight end 9 in week 3 when he scored 8.9 points. So like this is a top 10 tight end. But he scored 4.5 against Philly, and he's fucking Kyle Pitts. He's just useless. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's not just like get him out of your lineup. It's like, please get a backup. Like, get someone who's playable that you can put in when the matchup isn't good or when he continues to be not good. So
yeah,
Nolan,
well, it's like Kyle Pitts, and you draw a line to Patrick Mahomes of like everything about his name and the pedigree and whatever says he should be a good option, but there are so many other options that aren't these 0-point games come far too often.
I draw more of a line to like a Najee Harris type who it's like should be better, should be a fantasy asset, and is often not an asset. Najee's been like better this year, but
yeah, I guess I just meant
just
that
special,
in terms of like get over the name.
Get over the name, but like the name isn't good either because he hasn't done anything in real football either.
Yeah, but it was just like the name that when he was coming out as a prospect, when everyone said this is the best tight end there ever will be, and then he wasn't, and then he continues not to be, and like he's fine, but like give yourself an option of like maybe somebody that could be better in that lineup or in that position, and then when on Sunday mornings when you're deciding Kyle Pitts or
Zach Ertz,
you'll just know it's it's the other
guy. Speaking of Nolan, we do need to give out the Nolan move of the week, and Scott, I think you have a really good nomination here.
I wish I had like a trumpet sound. Yeah, I mean, this one goes to the namesake himself. This is Nolan's for already making excuses for not just next week, but the week after that as well. He's already saying that he congratulated Griffin for beating him this week, as well as me for winning in week 6, which I was not prepared to do, but super happy to hear how that's going to turn out. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this year after year, where you take one bad hit and all of a sudden, he's conceding 2 weeks in advance. Congratulations, Nolan.
Congratulations, Nolan.
And more importantly, congratulations to me and Griffin for winning the next 2 weeks.
for winning the next 2 weeks.
I'm very excited about being 5-1.
So let's talk about the next week. Week 5 is here. So bye weeks have begun. I know that I personally have Saquon on a bye this week, which is brutal. Having the second best player in fantasy on a bye sucks. You know something about that.
Yeah, you want to talk about having your best player not available to you?
No. So then we have Killing Unicorns taking on the Cleveland Browns themselves, Big D and the Crammers. I feel like this is probably another one of these like 40-point wins for you, but what do you think?
I feel like it's the biggest trap in the world that that the Browns are playing the Commanders, who have just a horrible pass defense. This could be one of those Amari Cooper 30-point games.
Yeah, but if it makes you feel any better, the Browns have a terrible quarterback.
They do. They really do. But maybe he gets hurt. Maybe Jameis Winston comes in. I don't know. It just like their matchup is,
that would be and I'm so not even funny.
I'm not even saying the Browns will win. I'm certainly cheering for them to win. But who knows if they'll be able to pull it off. The Washington offense is so fun.
How do you feel about having to? Obviously, you aren't going to root against the Browns, but how does it feel to know that all of the Browns' success actively hurts you in this league?
I mean, not great in the context of this matchup, but I have Amari Cooper in other leagues. I have Jerome Ford in other leagues. So, I mean, you know how it is. Browns fan first, and then you just hope that it doesn't bury you.
Totally.
But I can separate those things, or at least I try to, or I'll just drink more.
So the next matchup we have.
Of that.
The next matchup we have is Olave Lamp taking on the 2-2 Briggsy. Now, we've talked about Briggsy's 2 wins and how they don't feel like one of them felt more real than the other.
Yes.
I think that this is another situation. Again, we're not doing picks, quote unquote, this year, but this feels like Olave Lamp has a really solid roster. We just talked about the only scary thing is that he's really tied to these 2 offenses, and if those 2 offenses don't work, 3 offenses don't work out, it's a bad week. So, with that being said, Lamar and Derrick Henry are going up against Cincinnati. Olave and Rashid Shaheed are going up against Kansas City on Monday Night Football. And Ayuk and Debo play Arizona. So the Arizona matchup makes you feel good. The Cincinnati matchup feels not bad. That's not scary. Kansas City matchup is less exciting.
Even less.
So 4 out of 6, 2/3 of his core is definitely is in a positive matchup. So it does feel like Bob should be okay this week. But again, Bob, diversify, my friend.
Yeah, I mean he's projected, at least as of now, to win by about 28.
30. Yeah, like 30-ish. 25.
It's 28.
Listen, man. Bob's projected to win by a lot.
He's right around 28. We'll say, just estimating by what the numbers say. But any given Sunday, you never know. But yeah, Bob feels it's Bob's to lose, I think, in this week, and they're both 2-2, so we'll see who can break over 500.
Yeah, Briggsy obviously loses Rashee Rice. Thank you, Pat Mahomes, for that. It's
Are you gonna skip over my line where I say Rice's knee went snap, crackle, and pop?
I was letting you have it. We just talked about Briggsy a little bit. The team just feels like it's incomplete. So like he does have 2 wins. I'm not taking those 2 wins away from him, but we'll see. Next we've got B. Guider going up against Benny Denny. Can Benny Denny keep the winning momentum going, or was that a 1-week wonder? Feel like it's probably the latter, but B. Guider does lose Devontae Adams, as we talked about. So
might lose Jonathan Taylor too. I mean, this could
could even the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, and the line right now is 9 points, or about 30, as Andy would say. But currently
it's 5.
9 points.
It's 5 right now.
It's not. It's 100 to 91. How is that 5?
No, it's 96.8 to 91.03.
Refresh your page, bro. Yeah, I got 100 to 91.
I'm in the app.
Well, your app's fucked up. Either way, it's a much closer spread than Bob and Briggsy's was. Yeah, Benny Denny's team off to a rough start, but at the same time, all of his players are trending up. Doesn't have that big of a bye issue. I mean, Jalen Hurts being on bye is a problem, but you also he has Aaron Rodgers who he can plug in, which is fine. Meanwhile, I think B. Guider's team is taking a much bigger hit, especially if Jonathan Taylor is out. I think that's going to be a problem. And he will not practice today. Did not practice today, but still early in the week. And then obviously Adams is just out until otherwise, until we hear differently. But I don't think he's going to play in Las Vegas again.
So yeah, we'll see what happens with OB Guider. Definitely a lot of question marks. Next matchup, Nolan taking on Griffin. He's already conceded the loss, so congratulations, Griffin. We'll move on to the matchup of the week, and that is 3-1 Sprague's Dogs taking on the number one team in the league, the tight end ensemble, the tight end brigade, the tight end crew, whatever you want to call us. That's what we are. We're full of tight ends, and we keep winning. This is gonna be
Until
a fucking
you start hitting bye weeks.
this is a fucking brutal matchup, you know. I don't get Saquon. We're currently projected 0.76 difference between us in the current projections. It's gonna go down to the wire. My last two matchups have both kind of gone down to the wire, so I'm not shocked by this. And without Saquon, you know, if my worst nightmare is that Kamara continue that like Taysom Hill comes back and continues to vulture touchdowns from Alvin Kamara. The announcers, I was watching a little bit of the Saints game last week, and the announcers were like shocked when Alvin Kamara was like physical at the goal line. I was like, this is what he does, man. Like he's good.
Yeah, the pass catching is such a safe floor, and if Mahomes and Kelsey go back to their connection, then I feel like they'll need to use all of Kamara. But that's also sometimes when they dial up those trick plays. I don't know if it's going to make a difference in this particular matchup, but I'll be interested to see if Devontae Adams not playing in Vegas anymore, if that is a positive or a negative for Brock Bowers.
Yeah, he's got Denver. We'll see how they match up with him. I think one of the things that I'm thinking about, just on my side, there's a couple of things I'm looking at. Kittle didn't practice today, Wednesday. Hopefully it's just a vet rest day, but we have talked at length about his injury history. So, he's dominating when he's out there, but definitely something I'm watching.
At least you have 16 mediocre options to plug in if he misses
I do have 2 additional mediocre options. Khalil Shakir has been just like a rock solid flex wide receiver all year. He's questionable right now. I'm hoping he can play, and I think he will, but we'll see. And then the last thing that I'm watching is Anthony Richardson. Not on my team, but Anthony Richardson hates Michael Pittman.
Yes.
But
he hates
both of
all of his receivers.
Both of the backups the last 2 years have loved Michael Pittman. So Joe Flacco comes into the game. Michael Pittman is a star, is like a wide receiver 2 again, and it's like, oh, okay, so he is out there. If Anthony Richardson doesn't play, I think Michael Pittman ends up in my lineup. Shakir probably ends up in my lineup, and I can get the like Tutu Atwells, who has been the guy in LA, and Romeo Dobbs, who has certainly not been the guy in Green Bay, out of there, and I can plug these sort of, more sure-handed players in where I feel like the floor is a little bit more secure. So we'll see. Monitoring that. Obviously, fuck the Cowboys. I hate them, and I hope that they get into a bus crash. Otherwise,
Xavier Legette pop off though with Andy Dalton and Adam Thielen out of the mix. Seems I'm hoping, because of another league I'm in, this is that the arrow is pointing up aggressively for Xavier Legette. So, I will be pulling for Eric in this matchup. It's gross, but I don't want you to be 5-1.
5-0. Otherwise,
5-0, yes.
The thing I'm mostly afraid of is this like another Jordan Mason pop-off game going up against Arizona. That defense is not scary at all, and I could totally see him scoring 2 touchdowns and like multiple catches and just be dominating.
If Kittle's out too.
If Kittle is out, then
that
definitely Jordan Mason scares me a lot. So it's going to be a great matchup. I'm excited. Eric, I hope you fucking lose, but, excited to see how the matchup goes. And also, Eric, just pro tip. Don't try and make a trade for my best player the week that we play each
other. he was in the mood because, we were talking about this before we recorded. The trade that I mentioned earlier in the pod, Apparently, Andy got a very similar one.
Yes, I got a very similar offer, and I'm just like, look, it wasn't a bad offer, but we're playing this week.
I appreciate the grind, Eric. Lord knows, I love sending out trade offers. There is no bad time to send one out. I've sent them out, and then in the morning, be surprised that I see them in like my pending transactions, that they're still considering it. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I did send that. I better think about that. Maybe I could get away with just sending 1 third-round pick.
But yeah, this is gonna be. I think it's gonna be another great week. I think we have, I think the league as a whole has really consistently over 4 weeks been pretty close in most of the matchups. Like, there's been a couple blowouts. Obviously, you beat Briggsy by 50, but like, it has been pretty close. There is a lot of parity. And this is when
more
managers...
than one person get knocked out or have zeros. Rashid Rice because of injury. I shouldn't have beaten him by 50. So it wasn't. He played a starting lineup. He had Rashid Rice and Mark Andrews, who both put up 0 points.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that as like an insult to Briggsy. Briggsy, your lineup got fucked by 2 guys. 3
guys if you include Mahomes.
Yeah, got fucked by Pat Mahomes. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is like the starting lineups coming into the year and the adjustments to the injuries that have happened so far have been pretty solid. Now that bye weeks are starting, this is where we're going to see the separation. And I'm excited to see week 5. I'm excited to watch it all unfold with you guys, and I look forward to talking about it with you, Scott, next week. So thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
And just remember, everybody, just because I make a trade doesn't mean it's cheating. I squeeze the gas, my clip is